Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, is now out, and it's an absolute banger. There's tons of new weapons, spells, enemies, and places to explore. It honestly feels more like a sequel than a DLC. However, of all this new content, there was one weapon type I was looking forward to more than the rest, the hand-to-hand weapon class. So, after beating my first playthrough, I decided to go back and do it all again while only using this new martial arts weapon class. Before I start though, I wanted to mention that most of my viewers aren't subscribed, which is a bummer. Look at how bad this graph is. Please subscribe and fix it. Alright, on to the video. I loaded up a character that had already finished the main game at level 150 and hopped right into the DLC. Yahoo! My first mission is to get a hand-to-hand weapon. The first one is located after Castle Ensis, which you would assume means I have to beat this dungeon and its boss. But that would be wrong. Instead, we go through a poison swamp, thanks Michael Zaki, and take a spirit spring up and around the castle, completely bypassing it. From here, I sprint to the High Road Cross Site of Grace, where there's a note and a new emote. May the best win. There's also a Scadutree fragment, so I'm gonna take a minute to explain that. The Scadutree fragments are a new way to essentially level up for the DLC. Fragments let you level up your Shadow Realm Blessing, which increases both your damage negation and damage dealt. Essentially, you need these fragments to actually survive and hurt enemies as you progress. There's 42 of them around the map, and I will eventually collect them all. Alright, now that we understand how to be more stronger, let's go get our weapon. Heading straight east from the High Road Cross Site of Grace leads me to the Morth Runes. Here, just vibing, is Dryleaf Dane. By using the emote we found, we can activate his fight. And because it's an NPC fight, I get kinda cheesy with it and poke him with Serpent Hunter. He can and will combo the crap out of you, so having something with long reach makes it so he can't start punching me, and it's actually a pretty easy duel. Now that he's dead, I can pick up my main weapon for the run, the Dryleaf Arts. Yeah. I then immediately upgrade them to plus 25 and toss some frost on them to see if it's any good. I also respec at Rellana to maximize my damage with intelligence scaling from frost and decide to make an appropriate character. I tried to make Mike Tyson, and it's not really my best work, but close enough. With my weapon now acquired, I just need to make a build to get it as optimized as possible. First, I jump down a hole in Morth Runes for the Shattered Stone Talisman. This talisman buffs kicking and stomping skills, which does include basic kick attacks from my weapon. Trust me, I did some testing on that. That's true. Now I'm going to collect some Skadut fragments and test my weapon. I find a big enemy to fight and test out my new Ash of War Palm Blast. Yeah, that's pretty spicy. This L2 might just carry the run. Now I grab a bunch of Skadoosh fragments and then make my way through Ballarat to my first remembrance boss. I do upgrade my Scadat levels before the fight and end up at a level 5 Shadow Realm Blessing, which might be a tad overleveled for this, but oh well. Time to square up with my first real boss of the run, the Lion Dancer. What? What the fuck? And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. These DLC bosses fuck. This one wasn't too bad though. My first attempt ended quickly, but a couple tries later I was already getting close. Let me break down this fight real quick. The Lion Dancer starts off in his basic form. He has some big melee attacks, but they're easy enough to dodge, and you get a chance to hit him after each one. He also has 2 Ash Breath attacks that are also fairly easy to avoid. I abuse Palm Blast here since I have the Shard of Alexander and Godfrey icon to make it do some juicy damage. Eventually the big kitty gets mad and transitions into his lightning phase. Beat his ass some more and you'll get his wind phase, which is a little more annoying. And if you continue to slap that booty, he'll go to the ice phase, arguably the most annoying. After this, he essentially randomly switches between elements, which can be a bit chaotic, but luckily each one only has 1 or 2 different moves, and he essentially fights the same way, just with different damage types. This fight really isn't bad. My biggest enemy so far has actually been the camera, but as a martial arts master, I don't need to see to hit my target. Let's go!
Got him!
Finally got the first boss, oh yeah. Get him. Okay, Dryleaf Arts, not that bad with frost. After the large feline, I head back north to Castle Ensis. This is a pretty linear dungeon. There's always only one kind of way forward, so for once I can actually tell where I'm going. There is a Moongrim ripoff Moonrithel, but you can deadass just sneak around him, so I do that cause I'm a little bitch boy. At the end of the castle lies Rellana the Twin Moon Knight, aka Renala's twin. I think. I don't really know, I'm not a lore nerd, but it seems like a good guess based on the names. And here, I encounter a problem. I am doing no damage. Like there is so little damage, I'm not even getting a little yellow bar here. It's ridiculous. So naturally she kills me and I decide to go acquire more damage. I get some Scaboobity fragments and get to Scadutree level 6, which should be a good little buff for me. I still die a few times because Rellana is fast as fuck, but I'm starting to remember the moveset here. I decide to optimize my build. I use the Opaline hard tier and the green burst tier in my physic for more damage negation and stamina regen. I have the Shatterstone and Dragon Crest Great Shield talismans, as well as the Rotten Wing Sword Insignia and the Shard of Alexander. Now we have a real fisting build. With everything properly set up, we go again. I've also found something out about the old Palm Blast. It has some dummy hyper armor. While I'm charging it, things that would normally knock me out of my attack animation simply don't. Which is great, because it does a lot of damage but is slower than even one of Margit's attacks. I get really lucky at the start of phase 2 because I attempt to face tank her opening attack and instead get a stagger. I just abuse the fuck out of poise with the martial arts, baby. I'm a genius. Phase 2 is really phase 1 with extra steps. I forget to jump the moon attack and try to dodge, and yeah, don't be like me. Jump that shit, please. But now I'm closing in on my victory. I smell blood in the water like I'm a goddamn shark. So I do my thing and start slapping. Let's go! Holy shit! Yo! The Frost proc clutch! Oh, that was a little bit harder than I expected, but not too bad. Hopefully that's a common theme. With Fake Rellana dead, I decide to do a little more setup before moving forward on my journey. Step uno, I go to a rather large church and speak with Emir, who gives me a necklace that will allow me to blow bells like horns. Kinda weird, but aight. Now I scour the map for many more Scadutree frags, and finally I respec into a bleed build for the fisticuffs. With all that done, I make my way to the front door of the Shadow Keep to square up with the giant hippo. This is another enemy where the biggest issue isn't really the fight, but rather the camera. I can see fuck all for this fight, and my strategy is essentially hug his side and pray. Some of the attacks have big enough telegraphs to dodge easily, but honestly, I have no idea what's going on for about 60% of this fight. Luckily, my fists have 102 bleed on them, and I can get a lot of hits in on this porcupotamus. Bang, bleed proc. God, I love being a degenerate. Outside of the camera, this is just a really big, slow, and heavy-hitting boss, so I decide to finish him with the 1-2 combo. Let's go. Holy shit. Pretty good. I got like 3-4 bleeds in there. I'll take that. Now I get to make my way through the Shadow Keep. This is a legacy dungeon that leads to several different areas of the map and has its own remembrance boss that is key to progressing the story. Before finding that though, I make my way down to a secret coffin which leads to a path south that I didn't have access to before. Along this path are 2 more hippos, and I kill both of them for even more Scabobble fragments. I head back to the Shadow Keep after that and find another elevator that takes me to the Ancient Ruins, where there is another hippo and Skaboop frag. With all the skedaddles gathered, I now take a third path in Shadow Keep to find a boss room. I stop before it and get my Skiddly level up to 11, which is pretty decent. And now I'm ready to face off with Messmer the Impaler. Or not. Actually, I start sucking at the game.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
I didn't see any bleed procs after those first few attempts, so I pivot. The best scaling for damage on the dry leaf arts is actually strength. Since I'm not proccing my status effects, I respec into a high strength build for max damage and settle in to get good at Messmer. Jesus Christ. Just fucking take me. That was so clearly a dodge. Eat my ass, game. Yeah, it's not pretty, but I'm getting better. This is what it looks like to improve yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not that bad. After an hour, I started to get the hang of this just a bit. I'm not gonna lie though, respecing to strength might have been a mistake, so I go back to Frost with the exact same build I had for Rellana. Messmer's moveset looks a lot more intimidating than it is. There's really only 4 combos in phase 1, and once you figure them out, he leaves you really good windows to squeeze in some damage. Phase 2 though, that's a different story. It's the same combos with the addition of some dope-ass big snakes. Messmer sort of transforms between his base form and the giant snake. That transformation is actually a good damage window when you're close to him though. This isn't nearly the hardest fight in the DLC, but it is by far one of the coolest. and it felt doubly cool that I was facing off with him like some karate god. No weapons, simply me and my limbs against a giant serpent man spraying fire all over the place. There it is! Holy shit. Just had to get way too aggressive. Oh my god. The frost helped quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie, the fists definitely seem designed for like status effects. With Messmer dead, I now access the Shadow Keep from another new direction that takes me to an area with a church and a bunch of water. Luckily, I find a big stick and gear that allows the water freedom to chase its natural path. Now I can make my way through a new path formerly hidden under the water to the Great Sunflower. It's made of wood, so like I figured fire damage would be good. Let's see. No, that's not bad. This boss is cool because it has 3 phases, so I decide to tactically retreat because I want to see how crazy I can make this damage. So first I go grab the Fire Scorpion Charm for 10% more fire damage, and then I go and clap Gillica's cheeks, and get the Ritual Sword Talisman for 10% more damage when I'm at full health. Then, before the fight, I hit a little Golden Vow and Flame grant me strength, and now I have achieved maximal damage.
That's a lot of damage!
It don't one-shot, but I should be good now. One thing I did find out in the next couple of phases here is that the weak spot of the flower is specifically the front of his face. Just blasting the head didn't do the same damage, so there's a neat fact for you. Bang. Bink. Bonk. And that's another remembrance down. Beautiful. Now it's time to make another journey to find my next remembrance boss. So, we head southeast from Castle Venus until we are invaded by the Ancient Dragon Man. Fortunately for me, Palm Blast absolutely abuses the piss out of NPCs. So, poor Dragon Man spends most of the fight on the floor as I fist him. Sick. Now I can move forward to the Dragon's Pit. This is a pretty linear little cave that eventually leads to this shrine sort of area where I commit to jumping off a cliff to get to the boss room. Here, I get my second Dragon Man fight. He's a little tougher, but the same strat from before still applies. Palm Blast, knock on ass, repeat until boss is dead. Simple and efficient. With him as dead as my will to live, I can now move through the door in his arena to the Jagged Peak area. I move up the mountain till I found some Indiana Jones-ass boulders for another ski-bop fragment, and then I go further to a grace at the top of the mountain, which I will come back to later. I ain't ready for this shit quite yet. Returning to the foot of the Jagged Peak, I make my way west, across the red place, then south through the blue place, all the way down to a deep hole that reminds me vaguely of your mother. In the hole I find a Skibba fragment and realize something important. My swag is negative right now. So before venturing further, I head back to the beginning of the game to face off with the Blackgaol Knight for his dope armor set. This fight would have been hard earlier, but now I can do him like the Dragon Man and abuse the dumb NPC AI to keep him on the ground while I just pound away. And with that, I have achieved maximum swag. I return to the underground and get blasted by snipers as I try to simply run through this area to the boss. Eventually, I do manage to just run through and find myself on the edge of the abyss, so naturally I give in to the intrusive thoughts and yeet myself off that shit. But unfortunately, I survive. And now I get to face off with the Putrescent Knight. Not my best work right there, I'll admit it. I have a heavy attunement on my martial arts still, and I decide to do some testing with other damage types since this is a new boss. First off, we test a Sacred Attunement, aka Faith damage. See what the Palm Blast looks like. Holy shit, yep. Holy damage is good. Yep, that's not bad at all. And that's with suboptimal stats, so I go spec into a Faith build. And also add the Holy Damage tier and Holy Scorpion Charm to my build for a 20% and 10% damage buff respectively. Let's see what it looks like. How much? Holy shit. Oh yeah, that is obscene. I could have just finished this fight right here, but I decided to test out one more damage type, the Flame Art Attunement. This is a fire-based attunement with high faith scaling, so it works really well with my current build. I also add the Fire tier and Fire Scorpion Charm, so it's a fair test compared to the Holy damage. So it's not as good as Holy, but let's be real, that's still plenty of damage. About this boss, by the way, I really disliked it on my first playthrough, but coming back to it now, it's honestly alright. He has a pretty limited moveset with essentially 2 melee combos, a cool combo where he jumps off the horse, and his fire. Now that I've kind of figured that out, it is a pretty chill fight, and the aesthetics and music for him in this arena are super pleasant. But honestly, I mostly like it because it seems like an easy fight. Sue me, but everything doesn't need to be a crazy hard challenge. Come on, let me get away with it. Oh! Suboptimal damage type still got him. Alright, he's pretty weak to holy, or super weak to holy, pretty weak to fire. After beating the boss, you unlock a cave that has Saint Trina the Flower in it. If you interact with this NPC, it gives you nectar that sends you to the long sleep. I wake up from the sleep with a sore ass and decide to do it again. For science. If you do it 5 or 6 times, you get some cool lore from the flower thingy that is pretty important probably, but I don't care about lore, I'm just here to punch shit, so who really knows. After that lore drop, I head to a big finger pit to blow a bell that is definitely a horn. This is important for Ymir's quest at the church, but it won't be relevant till later. That's foreshadowing, by the way. Take notes. I now return to Second Rhea. Ra'a. I don't know how to say it. I return to the ancient ruins and wander some caves until I finally find a church with a boss door. I get my skibbity bops up to level 14 and make sure my build is set up for fire damage to take on Romina the Bud Dealer. And it looks pretty spicy, but I end up dying because I'm bad. So I decided to also try out holy damage since this boss is like a corrupted saint, so surely holy is either great or dog water. Let's see. Alright, let's see if holy's any better. A little less damage, I would say. Okay, it's just kinda mid. I'll take it though. Why not beat a boss with the wrong damage type, right? This is another boss that is relatively easy. She really only has a couple of slash moves, and sometimes the bug slaps you, but you can really just hug her side and smack her if you're properly leveled, because she doesn't do a whole lot of damage. So that's what I do. I bink and bonk until phase 2 when she whips out some exploding butterflies and a few more moves. That doesn't really change my strategy though, besides that now I have to occasionally run away when some butterflies spawn in. There it is. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Alright, she's weak to fire, but we got it done with holy for some reason, which still is pretty good, but definitely weaker to fire. Now that Romania, Saint of the Kush, is dead, I can go burn the Scadutree with Messmer's Flame, which unlocks the final area, Anir Elam. There is no shot I'm saying that right. This area has a couple little secret paths, but I just book it through here to get to probably the worst fight I've ever seen. Needle Knight Leda and her allies. Oh yeah, that's right. FromSoft added an NPC gank fight because fuck you, why not? There can be multiple different NPCs here based on what quest lines you do. Luckily, you can kill the first one before the other 2 spawn in, but I'm still dealing with 2 NPCs at once here. Even with my Palm Blast cheese, this is not easy. So I decide to get even cheesier and respec for maximum bleed on my martial arts. I once again abuse the first NPC, and then this fight gets kinda boring. With Dane and Leda both spawn in, I just simply run away and occasionally hit them. Run, blast, run, blast. Oh yeah, look, they also have heals. Isn't that just like so fun? Luckily, run and blast is a really broken strat for this fight, and once I kill Dane for technically the second time and have just Leda, the fight gets a lot easier. Let's go, hell yes. Just abuse the shit out of L2. With that done, I finally get the second hand-to-hand weapon in the DLC, Dane's Footwork. So naturally I go and upgrade them kick weapons and test out the moveset. See how much damage it does. I was one-shotting this guy a second ago. It might do more damage and be faster. And it looks pretty good. That new L2 could be pretty nasty. It's a lot faster than Palm Blast. I also now technically have access to the final boss, but there are still 3 remembrances to clean up, so let's do that first. To get to my next boss, I have to get under the Bonnie Village to the Darklight Catacombs. I'm not going to show y'all the journey through here, it's pretty straightforward, and the only gimmick is having to turn on lights because the areas are really dark. Or you could just like use a torch or the lamp. At the end of the catacomb, I face off with Yori the Inquisitor, using my new footwork with occult scaling since I have a high arcane build but don't feel like using bleed. And I was right, the new L2 is kinda busted. Not as busted as Palm Blast, but I'm still getting a lot of damage out for a pretty fast Ash of War. Also, all my attacks are buffed by the Shattered Stone Talisman, since basically the entire moveset is kicks now, so that's a nice bonus. Okay. No, just be patient. Alright, this is my chance. Drop kick! Bang! Beautiful. Hell yeah, dude. Kicks are kinda nice. With him beaten, I get to creep through the Abyssal Woods. There's a cool new enemy here that you don't appear to be able to kill, so you're supposed to sneak past them. You can actually parry and riposte them to make them vulnerable, but I'm too lazy to do that, so we do sneak through to our next area. Sex dungeon. Anybody else got sex dungeon vibes? Bunch of headless dudes with strap-ons where their head should be? That's fucking weird, man. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I think that sums it up. I now roll through this manse by knocking over some fake walls and doing a bit of parkour. And I have now arrived at one of my last bosses, Midra. Wow, so easy. Oh shit! It was a trick! The Lord of Frenzied Flame has to be one of the coolest bosses in this whole game. Moveset, fun, looks, sick, me, oh crap, I'm dying. I decided to switch up my build a bit here. I put Frost on my Footwork since I've heard he's weak to Frost, and Thin Flame on my Fist weapon so I can swap to those after a Frost proc to quickly reset it. Which seems like a really good call because I get a Frost off on him super fast. This boss also seems to have low poise because I haven't really been staggering enemies much, but 3 Ashes of War does it for him. I really like this boss because it forces you to stay in close. He has some good ranged and AoE attacks, and if you don't stick close and stay in rhythm for this fight, it's pretty easy to start getting wombo comboed and have madness proc. If you stay close like I am though, he only uses a few melee moves, and it's pretty easy to learn how to dodge if you're only worried about those. It's like Moog's dodge, but I suck at dodging it. Oh, we're gonna get close right here. There it is. Hell yes. Frost plus a flame reset. Kind of disgusting. That was pretty good. Alright, only 3 bosses to go. For this next one, I make my way back to the Specimen Storehouse in Shadowkeep and take yet another path through this area that eventually throws me out at the northern exit. Here lies Commander Gaius. And I'm not going to use it, but let me show you a cheese here. If you run off to the left immediately upon entering the arena, you can get this guy trapped on the corner of the wall. And then you can use Palm Blast to hit him through that wall. This also works on the other side of the wall, which is good because he occasionally escapes and you have to set him up again. So if he's messing you up and you need an easy way to beat him, here you go. And you know what? I probably should have just used that because he is messing me up. Like bad. So I simply switch my build to get more damage. I've heard he's weak to holy damage, so I respec into Faith and go back to my Palm Blast Fisticuffs for this fight. I also do the Holy Tear, Holy Scorpion Charm, Shard of Alexander, Godfrey Icon for maximum palm blasting damage. Is it worth it though? Yes. Yes it is. I'm taking a lot more damage with this setup, but it's fine because I can still poise through his hits to land my own and survive. Then I just back up, heal, and repeat the process. Come here. Come here. Come on! Hey, bang, 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 bang. I'll fucking just stand and slap the fuck out of you. I do not care. The nice thing about beating this boss is also finding 5 Scadot fragments after him up the road by the Tree Chalice, which is probably an important location for something, but who knows for what. Alright, back to some secret shit. I need to get to my next Fingerhorn Bell thing up by the Shaman Village. To do that, I use the Oh Mother gesture from Bonnie Village at the statue right by where I entered the Commander Gaius fight. This opens a secret door to the top right green area on the map, and I skirt on through here to blow my next horn. Now I can go talk to Ymir again, and he gives me another map, drops some lore, and then just disappears. When I go back to his chair, I give it a little sniff, which opens up a secret door. Huh. Not my intention, but it works. I get to do a fun little NPC fight here where I've used my kicks instead of my palms to get my 3rd and final horn. Only instead of getting a reward for blowing this horn, I get teleported to Metyr, the mother of the Fingies. This is another boss that is allegedly weak to faith, and based on that first blast, I think the allegations were true. I really like this boss. It has a cool arena, and it looks incredibly disturbing. All of its attacks are goofy as hell, so like, honestly, it's the perfect boss for me. Enjoy. Oi! Hello there. Bang. Bang. Get to the edge, get to the edge, get to the edge. Beautiful. As soon as this bitch comes down, we're getting her. This is the one. Get in the pocket! Yeah! Oh shit. Oh no, not this move. Anything but this. I can't see this shit. One. Oh. Rasengan! Got her ass. Here's what confuses me right there. Kinda looks like she teleports away. And with that, I have arrived at the final boss in the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, and probably my favorite. Hell yeah, dude. I've been asking to fight Prime Radahn since I started playing this game, and my wishes have been answered. And I regret those wishes deeply. This dude fucks. After my first few attempts, I head out to get the final level for my Scadutree blessing. That puts me at level 20, which essentially puts your modifiers up to double damage and double the damage negation. But it honestly don't feel like it. I'm getting absolutely worked. So I do what I do best. I sit back and go again and again and again. I spend several hours learning the moveset in and out, all leading to my final attempt. I've decided to use the bleed footworks for this fight. The palm blast is useless, and honestly the hitbox on the kicks seems more consistent in this fight. Also, I'm not doing much damage, so bleed procs are enormously helpful and pretty easy to get in phase 1. Phase 2 is the real challenge. This may be one of the hardest boss phases I've ever had to learn. Not only do all his attacks have follow-up light beams, it's also really hard to see in this fight. He also has these clone combos where I've essentially decided to let the clones hit me so I can dodge the real hit, which does far more damage. All in all, this phase is nowhere near perfect from me. Even after spending about 10 hours on this boss in 2 playthroughs, I've mostly just managed to minimize the damage I take in phase 2. There's still plenty of attacks I struggle to see coming, and I'm not anywhere close to properly punishing every move. I fucking love that they made this boss. Once he gets down to about 25% health, we get the third phase transition, where Radahn once again turns himself into a meteorite in an attempt to blast me off the map. It don't work though, because I know to run towards the wall and dodge the big explosion. Now I just have to deal with the same moveset as phase 2 to close out the fight. Let's go with the bleed. Oh, yeah, taste my fists, you son of a bitch. Woo! And that's all the remembrance bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree with just martial arts. But there is one more boss, probably the coolest in the DLC, who isn't technically a remembrance, but should count anyways. Bayle the Dread, the Balrog and archenemy of Placidus Axe. This is one of the coolest boss fights I've ever seen. Martial arts are also dog shit here. There's a katana you get from the ancient dragon man that is definitely intended for this fight, but fuck it, I'm here with my fists and my willpower to beat a dragon's ass. I really don't know if this or Radahn is the better fight, but FromSoft really delivered with this DLC. Beating the absolute beast who took off Placidus Axe's heads is a wet dream I didn't even know I had until I got here. Phase 2 is even cooler than Phase 1, with all sorts of big flying attacks and fire lightning raining down around me. But I'm a master of taijutsu, and it's inevitable that the dread will fall to my fists. There it is. Now we're done. And that's every major boss in Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, defeated by only the new hand-to-hand weapons. If you liked that video, check out my other ones on the screen now. Until next time, be good, be kind, adios.